What I do is inconsequential. Why I do what I do is I get to shorten people's journeys every day. What I love about our hospitality industry is that it's our mission to make people feel cared for while on their journeys. Together, we'll explore what hospitality means in the built environment, in business, and in our daily lives. I'm Dan Ryan, and this is Defining Hospitality. Today's guest is a designer whose signature style is a harmonious balance between dramatic, pop-inspired pieces and a refined classical style. Her boundless talent infuses into each project she takes on, resulting in design that delights her clients. At the end of the day, she's a designer who truly embodies what it means to create hospitable places. She's the lead designer, principal, and founder of AJC Design, the A, the J, and the C, Alicia Cannon. How are you, Alicia?
I'm great. Thanks, Dan, for having me.
Thank you for being had. So just to contextualize our talk right now, I've been on this recent road of talking to people from the beginning of my career journey, and you're one of them because way back in the day, we were both in Los Angeles, or I might have been in San Francisco, and you were in Los Angeles, and you were working at Cheryl Rowley, and Cheryl was like some of the first projects I ever worked on when I started my first company. And it's just great to be able to be here with you. And also, you've taught me a lot because I think you were like the OG LinkedIn boss that like really, I was like, wow, you've really put something really cool together and gave me a little bit of FOMO. And then, but you also were awesome about it and like kind of coaching me and helping me understand what kind of a power LinkedIn can have. And this podcast has been great on getting off on its own, but LinkedIn's been an invaluable source. So in a way, for the success of this podcast, I think that I could say thanks to you for helping like show me some little ideas and how big this platform can be.
Yeah, I agree. Well, you're welcome.
Thank you.
First off. And I do actually remember that candid conversation. I think it was like July or August of 2020 or maybe 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And you had called me and you were really in a like, what do I do? Where do I go?
Yes.
And I just remember being like, I think you're really great at this.
Yeah.
I think you should give it a shot. And I think we had told you about our strategy in the social media area. And, you know, we may be small, but we wanted to be mighty on the social media side. And LinkedIn was where we felt we could be really a useful, powerful, creator. And yeah, we've been doing really well on the LinkedIn platform, and obviously you've been exploding, and I'm so happy that I've gotten the opportunity to be a guest on your show. So thank you.
You're very welcome. And just for the record, everyone, and I did look at her number of followers before we got on, and she's beating.
Probably not by much at this point.
I'm coming in hot. But aside from that, I know like we're talking about social media and getting everything out, but like you're an awesome designer, hospitality, multifamily, all the things. And I always love talking to people who I started my journey off with, and you were working in another company and took that entrepreneurial step and leap. It's more of a leap, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then here you are, and here we are, and you're working on great projects. You've got a really great team. And it's just exciting to kind of be woven, have our stories kind of woven together, and our journeys woven together. So it's awesome. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think it's probably close to 20 years we've known each other at this point, because I think my journey in California was 2003 to 2006, and most of that time I spent at Cheryl. So, and obviously Cheryl is one of the founding fathers, I feel, of hospitality, founding goddess of hospitality. So I couldn't thank her enough for all the valuable tools and assets she gave me to learn about hospitality. And she was like a really good mentor in the industry.
Incredible.
So,
and actually, that's a great segue because I always ask, like, and you teed it up perfectly, so maybe you should do this also. But like, how do you define hospitality? What does it mean to you?
Well, I think for me, hospitality is an experience that is created intentionally with the guest's needs in mind. In each hotel that we get to create is a blank canvas. And for me, I get to create these memorable moments, idyllic escapes, reassuring comforts away from home. And I get to use all of my creative, fingertips to make this come together for people and for guests. I mean, it's such an amazing, I would say, tool, or I would say gift that I do have. It feels like I do have a gift. And there obviously many of my contemporaries obviously have this gift, but I'm glad that I get to bring this gift, which is a passion of mine and something I knew I wanted to be from so long ago. So I get to see it come to fruition, which is amazing.
I love it. And going back to like original inspirations, and like you said, you're a goddess of inspiration. As you look at your journey and think about kind of where you are now and recognizing this passion, who was it? And it's awesome that you're recognizing it. First of all, it's awesome because many of us don't recognize it, don't evangelize it, don't get out there and like talk about it and kind of trying to impact others. But what is it that who are some of your mentors and how did they help you realize or get this passion out of you and so that you found your path?
I mean, obviously Deborah Geer, who I worked with at Cheryl's office, she was one of my first mentors, and she just taught me a lot about structure and how to really. She's very structure oriented. She told me how to put together a spec book from soup to nuts, to how to put a matrix together. She really knew how to do everything, and she was a really wonderful designer, and she still is an amazing designer. I also learned from Jody Harley, who worked at Gensler. She was one of my first mentors, and she really helped me understand FF&E from start to finish, and how the process works, and understanding everything from a design and narrative up to construction administration. And she really helped me understand all those parts of the process. Even to working with David Easton, who's obviously one of the masters and great architects, who's now passed on. But David, learning his neoclassical style and how he applies it, and how, working for someone who was such an incredible, talented architect and designer, taking his style and his design aesthetic and implementing it into a hospitality application wasn't the easiest at first, because he is a residential designer. And, my job as a hospitality designer was to help him recreate his residential aesthetic into a hospitality quality. So when we were doing St. Regis's and multitudes of them during the 07-08 time frame of this decade. So it was definitely hard, but, learning from all of these greats really helped me understand, their vision and, how I want to adapt my own vision and what was important to me, learning how they ran their offices, and how everybody was a little different, what it meant to be in a family, smaller environment versus a larger environment like Gensler. So learning that all helped me hone my skills in so I could become an entrepreneur and open my own studio and, run it for the past 16 years. So I adapt the skills that I learned along the way and took what I felt would work for me. And I think that's how I decided to really go out on my own.
Can't believe it's been 16 years.
Yeah, February.
Good Lord.
I know.
Wow.
It's a long time. I'm still here. Still getting paid to do the thing I love to do. It's amazing.
It's really amazing. Hearing Deborah Geer is amazing.
A blast from the past.
Totally. I was an intern for her way back in the day, and she's
DG.
She's amazing.
Yeah, she's the best.
And I have a really great story about when I was an intern, which I'll save for another time, but involving her and Kathy Stein. So Kathy.
Oh, wow. Kathy Stein.
If you're listening, We'll loop back on that when we stop recording. It was a fun one.
Where was that at? Oh, at
At
HBA.
HBA in Los Angeles.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Um,
That's so funny.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I think that's what's also so wonderful in such a small world that we all operate and thrive in. There's this ability to say these names and have these shared memories that are different, but it happens with such frequency. So I really feel like even though we are all doing different things and we've all kind of gone other places, we all share in this culture that we've built within this industry. And it's another cool thing. I get a lot of great feedback from doing this, but my favorite channel are the kids who are in school or interns, or they're just starting out on their path, and they listen to people like you or other guests, and they're like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. I met someone the other day. They said, oh my gosh, I loved your podcast. You did an episode with yada, yada, yada. I didn't know I could work for a big company and work remote. And I was like, oh, but she picked it up from me. I was like, wow, that's freaking amazing. So it's like leaving all these, impacting all with all these little, little moments, but because like they just happen, but they leave a really big impression for others.
Yeah, of course. In fact, when people like interns, or because we often have a lot of interns that come through our office, they always ask me like, do you have any advice? And I always say to them, go work for a large firm, a medium-sized firm, a small firm, find the culture you like, find the environment that feels good to you, because you're in it to win it. You're there to learn, you're there to be successful. And it's really important you understand what you like, because you're going to spend a lot of time there. And it's really important to understand, the people that you want to be around, the culture you want to be around. It's really important because they're so vastly different, and there's so much to learn from all different size firms.
Well, I'd also say, like you were saying, you want to learn about the culture you want to be around and the people you want to be around. But I also find like having that broad experience, you also learn about the people and cultures you don't want to be around, right?
Absolutely.
And that sometimes is more valuable than the ones that you do, because the no, like, oh, that is something I don't want to do, it really can change the trajectory. And it's interesting because I was at this NEWH show out in Minneapolis this week, and there were all these students from University of Minnesota, University of Iowa, and they were all walking through, and one of them came up. She was like, I'm older than a lot of my colleagues. I think she was 30. And she's like, do you have any advice for me as like I get out there? Because, I guess maybe she was feeling like she was a little bit behind the 8 ball, or behind, like, because she's starting late or finding her passion later. And I was like,
sure.
Well, not really. It's awesome you're figuring this out now. Like most people never figure it out.
And you took a leap. You took a leap of faith.
Yes.
Like, good for you.
And then she's like, well, do you have any advice? And I was like, I don't know. I said, well, listen to this podcast, number one. It'll give you some great insights. But then I said, collect no's. And she's like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, have people say no to you as much as possible. Because no is like, yeah, it can hurt sometimes, but if you collect them and you relish them and look at all of the no's you get as gifts, they're also really informative, because it means you're doing stuff. It means you're you're taking action, and collecting no's or getting no said to yourself 5 times this week or 15 times this week. It means you're putting one foot in front of the other and forging your path forward.
Right, exactly. I have like a great example of no. There was this firm that I really, and I'm not going to say, but there was this firm that I really wanted to work for when I moved back from LA to New York. And I had been watching them. I had been reading every wallpaper magazine about them. I was like so excited when I got on the interview. I had 2 interviews with them. I was sweating bullets on the second interview. I swear I thought I was like, they saw all the sweat stains underneath my red linen dress. And all I kept thinking is like, I'm not getting the job. I'm not getting the job. And I found out I didn't get the job. And I was devastated for like a week and a half. Like, And I was like, wait a second, after the second week, and I'm like, why am I devastated? I have 5 yeses that I just got from all these amazing, incredible firms that are way better than this actual firm. And I was like, why can't I just be blessed with the yeses and understand that the no just means my path is turning? And that's okay. And that my journey is not, stopped right here. It's going.
Mm-hmm.
It's just on a different path right now, and that's okay. And that it's going to lead me to what I need to ultimately be doing. Or where I need to be. So I'm glad I got that no, but of course I was devastated, but it just brought me on the right path to where I am now, and that's okay.
It's interesting you say that, because also this week I learned something else. I was with another friend of mine who was a college and professional athlete, and I was talking about my son as he like gets really hard on himself if he doesn't perform well on the field or at school. He's like, I suck, bro. And it motivates him in a way, but and he doesn't suck. He's really awesome. So just in case you're listening, Theo, it's impressive, and just keep on rocking. And I'm very proud of you. He's the one listener we have. But my friend who was the athlete, he said, it's interesting. He was talking to some sports psychologist person or someone who'd seen a sports psychologist, and this idea of in anything we do, but using athletics, like if you're playing tennis or taking a shot or whatever, you remember the bad ones, right? You remember the ones you missed or the things you weren't in the right spot. But the sports psychologists, apparently what they were saying is it's really important to remember the good ones, because if you remember how you feel and what everything smelt like and what the lighting was like and what the whole environment and moment was like as the good thing happened, and you could just remember that when you have the bad one, and you can fall back to that really good place, right? And it's really important to start modeling that. So Theo, just know that I just learned that this week, and on the next drive to practice, I'm going to be talking to you about it while you're looking at your phone, not listening to me. But I'm really hopeful that it will sink in.
It's all about the yeses.
It is. It's all about the yeses and the positivity, but also the no's are
important.
Are really good. When you go back 16 and a half years ago, let's just say, what were some of the data points that helped give you the courage and the strength to take that leap?
I think it was the validation from my dad. Yeah. When sorry. He just passed away in March, so.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It gets a little, whew. But anyway, I remember this valuable lesson that I got from one of the firms I was working at. And the lesson was, if they can do that to someone else who's your boss, they can do it to you. And it was a scenario where they were trying to promote me to my boss's position while my boss was still employed at the company. And she happened to just be on vacation at the time, which I thought was really not the kindest way to approach the situation. However, anyway, they offered me the world. And I just remember getting back from this lunch where they just wined and dined me. And I got back and I was just like, they just offered me this amazing, incredible opportunity, but at the expense of someone who I respect and who is one of my mentors. And I just kept remembering, like, this doesn't feel right. And I picked up the phone. I called my dad. I escaped from work, grabbed my phone, and I said, this is just what happened. And he said to me, he goes, if they can do it to her, they can do it to you. And 2 days later, I resigned. And I said, thank you for your time here, but I wrapped everything up with a bow and gave them an ample amount of time before I left. But after that experience, I had said to myself, that's not the culture I want to be a part of. I may have some of the greatest projects in the world, but at the end of the day, that's not the type of environment I want to be around or the type of people I want to be around. And I'm ready to create that environment. And my dad said to me, I said, and mind you, at that point in time, I had been moonlighting on the weekends and had been saving money to go out on my own, a nut. And I said to my dad, I said, I think I'm ready. And he goes, I wish I knew what you know now. He's like, I wish I didn't have kids at the age of, 25. Otherwise, I would have went out on my own. And at that time, I was in my early 30s. And he goes, I wish I knew. He's like, I would have gone out on my own way back when. But he's like, this is a great opportunity for you. Do it.
Wow.
And I never looked back.
Okay, so as you were telling that story, and thank you for sharing, because Theo, you should listen to your dad, right? Because I know what I'm talking about.
Always.
No, there's so many great, or incredible just dad moments that I have too, and he's not with me either. But what I picked up, and I heard you say this before in conversations, there's this idea of intentionality, right? In paving your own path. It's like being very intentional. And oftentimes in work and life, we're all so reactive, right? We're reacting to the needs of the clients, to the needs of stakeholders, family, health, but it's really hard to be proactive and intentional. And I think that for many entrepreneurs, it's that intentional step. And you don't even have to be it's actually, there are a lot of other people that do this, is where it's like you're guarding your time, you're blocking your time, you're being very intentional with every moment. And I find it's hard to be intentional with every moment, and it's something I struggle with. But how do you really leverage that idea of intentionality in what you do on your journey?
Well, I think, one of the reasons why I went also out on my own is there's definitely not enough travel time, to explore and to be creative. And I think part of doing my job creatively is to see stuff and to see the world. And I needed to intentionally block out time to see the world so I could be a better creator. And I feel that the firms that I work with, and, I remember one firm that when I interviewed with them, they said, we frown upon, anyone taking any vacation within the first year. And I was like, okay, peace out. This isn't for me, and I just knew that I needed, in order to be a good creator and do what I need to do for my client, I needed to see stuff, and I needed to be well traveled. I needed to explore, and I needed to allow my creative, juices to really open up. And the only way to do that was to get out and see stuff. So that was like a really important part of why I went out on my own. And, I also wanted to be able to take my kid to school one day, and be able to pick her up and, be very present in my daughter's life. Even that was before I had a kid. I knew I always wanted to be able to have a family and be able to have a business and be able to balance that by not being able to drop whatever I need to do and make sure my priorities were in check and in line. And that was that for me was very intentional way before I even, had a family. So.
And then on that, just keeping with that intentionality frame, because again, going back to that whole, you're like LinkedIn coaching or making me think, just not realize what is at the fingertips, right? I was just playing around with it, and you built it's awesome. It's not just it's real, really impactful information that people can use on their journeys. So when you look at starting and when you first start, you're the chef, you're the cook, or the cook, the cook, the waiter, and the bottle washer, whatever that whole term is. So you've made this leap. What were some of the really, I guess, most meaningful and intentional things you did as a nascent business owner to get liftoff and have success?
Well, one was kind of establishing what my brand was about, and I think what my ethos and all the things that were important to me. And one was to be more of a family-oriented brand, something where my clients were always going to be repeat clients. My client, the man I'm working with right now, I've known him for 11 years. We've done multiple projects together. I have other clients who I still work with. But I mean, most of my clients are repeat clients. I think, making sure I establish that rapport and that at the end of the day, they always get me and that they know they can always turn to me. And, it becomes a very family oriented environment. And that's kind of how I've always cultivated my culture is cultivate the right way?
Yep.
I guess kind of cultivated my culture. And, that's just been really important to me. So family's been very important to me. And making sure that it's all, it's reciprocal. It's, it's everlasting. It's longevity.
And then
that was kind of a
no, I like that. So
answer.
No, it's good because if I also think about things that I've heard you say over time, there's this, talk. I know like in past conversations, you would talk about a script or a narrative or ideas like that. And again, if you're creating a narrative or creating a culture or writing a script, if you will, there's a real focus in getting that next word out and defining where you're going. So what are ways that you keep that script fresh and keep that culture true to what your values are?
I think never being more than 7 people in my office. That was really important to me. Always being small but mighty. That's always something that's been part of us where, we always can compete with the big people. There's no project that's too big for us. We've done tons of ground up. We just opened the Harlem Renaissance project, which was an 8.5-year long project. We've done everything from St. Regis to Ritz-Carlton's. I've worked with every brand under the sun. I think no matter what, we can do anything. And I think it's just making sure that if something doesn't feel good, it's probably not right. Or, as Justin Bateman said, I just listened to his podcast about this, like, if you can't commit to it today, you're not going to commit to it in 3 months from now. So, whatever you're going to say yes to today, make sure it really is something that you want and make sure it really is meaningful and that you're going to put all of your creative juices and passion into it. So, commitment's also really important. So if it doesn't feel good, just walk away from it, and we've done that multiple times. Like, it's not fitting for us. So I think that those are the 3 powerful things that we kind of always circle back to, or I at least always circle back to.
That idea of being small but mighty really resonates with me. And it's kind of come up a couple of times in these conversations where, you start an entrepreneur, you want to grow and have this amazing, huge business and lots of people working. And hey, that can work out great. It can also turn into something that it's not what you wanted.
Overhead sucks.
Yeah.
Too much overhead sucks.
Yeah, it can. But there's also the idea of just being I think it's called Small Giants was this book I read a while ago. And I was like, oh my God, I really wish I read that in the beginning. But it was all about just being small and mighty, and I love how you said it a couple times just in this conversation, just being family oriented. And I think as you were describing your career journey working for others, there were big ones and then there were more family ones. So, and I've actually not heard it describe like small businesses described as family. So how did you come up with that idea? Because in reality, it's not family, but it kind of is. So like, how did you pick that one?
It is. I mean, all my ownerships, the people that I work with are individuals who own a smaller portfolio, maybe multifamily, maybe office and hotel, some mixed, some just hotel and then have gone off to multifamily because they wanted to sell their portfolio. But they're not big guys out there. You wouldn't find them on Instagram. You're not going to find them on social media. You're not even going to find them sometimes on LinkedIn. And if you Google them, you're not going to find them either. So they're kind of have their anonymity, and I kind of I respect that. They just want to do good stuff, powerful stuff, make some money, and do good work. And they're not in for the frills. And they value me, which I think is the most important thing. Is they value me and they have respect for me. They're just really good guys
Mm.
and gals.
And gals.
So.
As you were talking about your David Easton experience, like doing all those Ritz-Carltons in 07, 08, then the financial crisis, then, there was a pandemic, in case anyone remembers, not too long ago, and you're going through that. And then as an entrepreneur, like, what were some of those I guess the David Easton was before as an entrepreneur, but you could have even had that dark experience then too. But like, what were some on your journey? Where were some like really bleak places you were, and how did you find your way out?
When you didn't have a project in the hopper and you just finished one, when you're starting out, you're doing everything from start to finish. And then all of a sudden you're like, I was doing all this work and I didn't get another project in my hopper. Oh, sugar, what am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the process of learning, right? Obviously you don't want to bite off more than you can chew. Bringing on 2 full projects is a lot. That means you have to bring on more people, and, learning that process is like, how much can you actually afford and how much can you not afford? And, what does this look like? And you're working out of your house, and it's like a lot of trial and error. There was times where, we had a client that was just like, yeah, I'm not going to pay you $5,000. And I'm like, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. You don't understand. This is my first year out on my own. You need to pay me, and until I got my ducks in a row and made sure my contract was ironclad and, did all those, got my lawyer and, had all those protective nets for myself, obviously they come with time and going through this learning curve. But I think at the end of the day, it just was a learning process. Like, I had to make all of these mistakes and go through it. But I think the hardest one was not making sure I didn't have a project in the hopper down the line, or I wasn't business developing 6 months in advance to make sure I got that project, And, networking was really important to me. And, NEWH was incredibly valuable for me. I was on the board for NEWH for many years. That was like a great asset, learning who the players were in the industry, just kind of getting out there, my name getting out there, getting, in the industry. But I think there was just a lot of networking, hustling that you have to do in the beginning. And it was exhausting and tiring. And I know that these times that I don't do it as much now that I have a family and, things are a little bit harder. But, after COVID, you just need to get out there and kind of hustle a little bit more. Now we can hustle a little bit more via the internet, I guess, LinkedIn and, and other avenues. But I would say is marketing yourself and getting yourself out there.
Cool.
And making sure you had business prepared. It's hard.
And then
doing it solo.
Right. Okay. So now you've been doing this for 16 years. You've built this team. You've built this family. As you're looking forward, and I know it's very hard to see the future, but what's exciting you most as you look out there?
Oh, gosh. Right now, I think it's just getting through this deadline. I have a big deadline right now, and we have a new project starting. So I'm like just trying to get through this one spec package with, this deadline. And then we have another one that's starting right on top of it. So I think it's like getting to the end of the year, planning my daughter's birthday, getting through Thanksgiving and Christmas, and then we move into our new offices. So yes, our new offices start Jan 1. So that's exciting. So we moved out of Harlem. We went into kind of a storage facility, and now we were working remotely, obviously, as most of us were doing. Now we're back. We're getting back.
Cool.
So
where's your new office going to be?
It's going to be in the Flatiron on 25th and Broadway.
Great area.
So I'm sure.
That's my old hood.
Yeah. So excited about that. I think that's probably what I'm really looking forward to, is like getting to an office and getting settled and kind of getting back to like shaking off all the COVID stuff, and really being done with it and putting it in the past.
Yeah.
For once.
Yeah. And it's nice. So. Like, I'm just seeing so many more people go back into work, but I'm still seeing this hybrid thing, which again is where this podcast really fills in the gaps on everyone's kind of water cooler time or missed water cooler time.
Yeah. I mean, I will listen to a podcast to and from work. listen to a podcast at work all day long. I probably listen to like 5
hmm
podcasts a day.
Yeah,
So
that's good. It's well,
I love
and
a
you're
podcast.
walking and you're riding in the subway, and it's just nice to have
Yeah.
fill up your brain.
Yeah, of course.
What's your biggest need right now?
Need? Wow. Well, we could use some interns. We could use a new junior designer or senior designer.
Okay,
All apply, please.
but just stay less than or equal to 7.
Exactly. Actually, we just need probably 2 new roles to fill.
hmm
We had some transitions this summer, but we'll find the right fit. Once we get settled into the new office, I think everything just works its way out. And I tend not to fear so much after my ayahuasca journey. So
Oh yeah, just let it all go and
letting it all
release.
go.
Submit. You're there.
Exactly. After the experience I had with that, I'm just ready to. I just had it. I just went on my journey in August.
Oh wow, so that's like
Yeah,
pretty
so
intense. Like
it was.
wow, that's some big milestones this year.
Yeah.
Father passing away, ayahuasca, and new office.
Yes, and my mom getting diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
Oh
So yeah, just putting it all out there.
wow, release it.
Yeah, releasing it. That's why I can't. I guess that's why I'm excited for the new office. It's going to be a new start and a new brand. We're actually our new branding will come out this year. So actually, after the new year, and a new release of a website. So yeah, we're very excited. So
Did you do the branding yourself?
no, we used an outside
Okay.
company. Yeah, a company here in New York. So
Okay. Yeah, it's always,
Yeah.
I was actually recently speaking with someone who has a branding company, and
Oh,
they're
okay.
like, yeah, we hired a branding company to help us with ours. And they're really good
Oh,
at what
yeah.
they do. I was like, why don't you do it? And they're like, well, do you like talking about yourself? And I was like,
No,
no.
it's the hardest thing. So hard. I know. They're like, how do you describe yourself? Or the questions were, how do you describe yourself? What kind of car could you? And we obviously have a team. We have a whole branding and social media, like part of AJC. And everyone was saying these things. And I'm like, is that what you think about me? Wait, that's the kind of car you think I would drive? Oh, I got like, without that I was insecure. I was like,
Wait, what kind of car
okay.
are you? Now I want to know.
Well, I don't drive this car, but one of the girls was like, I see you in a white Range Rover. I'm like,
Oh,
that's been on my vision board for a while. But no, that's not the car I drive right now.
okay. Well, that's it. So yeah, again, that's being intentional, releasing, and then taking that next step out.
Yeah, we're excited for it. I think it's going to be we're excited for the new year. So ready to kind of wrap this year up and button it up and put it behind us and just move forward. No fear.
Awesome. Hey, when you bring on new people onto your team, into your family, if you will,
Mhm.
what are ways that you indoctrinate them or onboard them into those values? I guess first you have to find them and screen them, but like, what are things that you do to like actual actions to bring them in?
Well, what I used to do before my HR came on was very different. Now that I know I'm not supposed to X, Y, and Z, I keep my mouth shut and I have a whole list of questions that I do ask. I do ask them a lot about their culture and what their expectation on the culture is. And, I'm very transparent about who I am as, the principal. And I'll say this. I'm not going to sit behind you and tell you what to do. I need you to be a forward thinker. I need you to be someone that's going to think outside of the box. I'm not going to be your micromanager. And so I really need someone to kind of clone my head somehow.
And what are some of those ways that you get all of your learnings out of your head and into the heads of others?
I train them. I do pretty like aggressive training in the beginning, especially with the younger designers because, in school they're not, versed in the language. Part of the problem is they don't have the tools and they don't know where to go and they don't know what the language is. So I try to be helpful and help them understand how to write a spec, what's in the body of a spec, like what's the language that goes into a specification. Because if they don't know that information, they're never going to be a great designer. Like they really do need to learn the really important things, and the language of interior design is one of them. And I help them get that dictionary underneath their belt to start. And I think that's like one of the most valuable things I bring to the table is I really do help them in those, especially the junior level, like the small, like how to do a matrix, like what does a matrix look like? What's a budget look like? I kind of go through it with them. I try not to have someone else teach it. I try to go through the basics with them and help them down the road. And a lot of times they're applying what they're learning here, in AJC at school as well. So, so they're getting a win-win, no matter what. So
any time with Alicia is a win.
I say the same for you, Dan.
Oh, don't make me blush. So if you were to go back to when you were at starting your journey, because where was your first hospitality job?
Gensler.
It was Gensler.
Well, no, Mason contract.
Oh, wow.
Do you know Charlie Grady?
Yes.
Okay, so Charlie and do you know Chuck Greenspan?
Nope.
No, Chuck works at Häfele now. And Len Horowitz was the owner of Len Horowitz. He used to own Mason Contract Products, which was, oh my gosh, Steve Wachtler who used to be with Amatex.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really calling it back. Mason was in Glendale, which is Queens, I guess, Glendale. And they produced mattresses, but they also had an interior design department. And the woman I work for, Gloria, we used to call her rest in peace, Gloria, the Stella D'oro queen. And any of the guys I just mentioned will tell you stories all the time about her. We designed 3-star hotels.
Wow. Stella D'oro, like the breadsticks.
The breadsticks.
Okay.
She would eat Stella D'oro, like breadsticks, the cookies, the biscuits, the whole thing.
Oh.
She would have Stella D'oro all day long.
Character.
And I just went in there and I did mood boards all day long.
Wonderful.
And I met with all the vendors and stuff like that. So that was probably my sophomore year when I was at Pratt.
So if you were to magically appear in front of yourself there, what advice does the Alicia that I'm talking to now have for her younger self eating Stella D'oro breadsticks?
Network. Never lose. Network a lot. Like all these guys that I knew back then, I mean, I was like 19, and, I still know them to this day, like we reminisce. I think it's also the never burning your bridge and the industry. If you love hospitality, which I knew I loved hospitality, I think, it's a small industry. So, don't burn your bridge and, just whoever you knew back then could be peer at your door the next day.
Totally.
So, and they could be your boss or they could own, a hotel. You never know.
Yeah, I'm so happy.
So,
like I see Charlie Grady at the shows, or if I'm ever down in Florida, I'll see him down there. And he's one of those people that every time I see him, I just can't not smile. You know what I mean?
I know, ear to ear.
Yes.
I was just talking about him the other
Charlie,
day.
I hope you're listening. I'm going to send this to you.
I hope so too. Totally. He's the best. I knew him when he was owning liquor stores. I think his family was owning liquor stores, and then he went to work at Mason. And
wow.
He didn't even have kids. Now his kids, I think, are college.
Oh.
It's funny.
Wow.
Crazy. I know.
Wow.
It's wild.
This has been a really awesome walk down memory lane with you, Alicia.
I know.
If people wanted to learn more or connect or whatever, what's the best way for them to do that with you?
You could definitely go to our website, ajcdesign.com. You can reach out to us on LinkedIn, AJC Design, or Instagram at AJC_design.
Awesome. Hey, this has been a long time coming, and I'm so glad we got to do this.
I'm so happy. Yes, thank you.
And now I want to learn more about your journey, so we'll do that offline.
Okay.
And
sounds perfect.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad we got to do this.
Yeah.
It was fun.
And then also thank you all to all the listeners. Without you, we wouldn't be here with Alicia. So please, if this changed your idea on your journey or hospitality or anything, please pass it along because we keep growing by word of mouth. And Alicia's going to give me some more hacks on how to do it on LinkedIn. So thank you all.